From a remote corner of the East Coast to the world stage of women's rugby, Ruahei Demant carries her whakapapa, her whānau and her people every time she pulls on the Black Ferns jersey. More than a captain, she's a voice for the next generation and a story of resilience, leadership and identity.
I'm a descendant of the East Coast. I was really fortunate to be born and raised back home on my tūranga waiwai. I was really lucky to be raised with te reo Māori as my first language. I was really lucky to be raised with all of my pakeke, my kuia, my kraua. They were our teachers at kohanga. My siblings and I, we went off to kura kaupapa, and everything that was taught to us at our kura was all the kōrero tukuiho from our hapu and our iwi back home. And so growing up, that was the world that I lived in.
When you reflect on that, how has that made you the person but also the player and leader that you are?
Yeah, reflecting on that as an adult, I now see that the upbringing that I had, not all Māori or Indigenous people have that same upbringing. And so as an adult, when I reflect on that upbringing, at the time was all that I knew. But now I realise how truly lucky I was to be raised speaking my native language, to be raised around a lot of the pakeke and the kōrero, the tikanga of my iwi and of my iwi Māori. And that has shaped me completely into the person, the leader, the player, and the values that I uphold in my day-to-day life. First and foremost, I'm really proud of the fact that I am a Māori, that I'm able to do what I do and have influence, a positive influence that's in the media and tell a positive story. That's a very Māori story. That's a story that's not often told about Māori.
When you think about that and the little girls that would be looking up to you, when you were that little kōrero, who were some strong wahine Māori that you looked up to?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because when I reflect back on my childhood, obviously being like naturally interested in sport and looking up to sports people as my role models, there weren't any female ones, and there weren't many female Māori athletes because of resources. You know, I had no idea who the Black Ferns were. You didn't see sports like that, and so all my heroes were male heroes. I remember my mum she got us a book when we were kids, and it was like the Māori Sports Heroes book, and one of the few women in that book was Dame Farah Palmer, and then the other was, I always forget her name. She's from Rotorua, she's a Morrison, and she went to Wimbledon for tennis. And those were the only two, you know? And my sister and I, we could barely read Pākehā, so we'd just like look at all the books and be like, oh yeah, oh cool, like, is there anyone in here from Te Whānau? Is there anyone down here from the Tairāwhiti Matatu? And there was no one. And so to be in teams like this where we have not just people like myself, we have players and people like Stacey, who's from Mātātua as well, and other players who are from really, really small, isolated parts of Aotearoa that are Māori, i te ao, i te pō, to have such a positive influence to show these young kōrero that no matter what they look like, where they're from, how far away they live from town, that if they want to be a rugby player, if they want to be a league player, you know, they want to be a sevens player, they want to go off to the Olympics, that they can, and no dream is too big, no matter who they are, where they come from.
Today, Ruahei is one of many wahine Māori in the Black Ferns, proving you can come from anywhere and make it all the way to the world stage.
The beautiful thing about our team is that we're all directly linked to the grassroots level, and that's probably, I think, the area where we have the greatest influence, because people see that you're just like them. And so to be here and represent our country is one thing, but to take obviously the rugby lessons that we take, but also the opportunities that we get to develop as people and leaders and take that back into our communities and, you know, serve in that way and then bring those new players, coaches, management through. Yeah, I guess it's just a part of the legacy that this team has always tried to maintain and uplift.
Speaking of legacy, what was it like when you did first make the Black Ferns? You had different injuries that you had to overcome, but when you finally did get to wear the fern on your chest?
Yeah, the first time I made this team was in 2018. I was really lucky and fortunate to go on tour with my younger sister, Kiritapu, who had already debuted a few years before. I never got to play a test with my sister, but the tours that we were able to be together, like it just obviously hits different when it's with your own flesh and blood.
But what has it meant for you to have that tautoko and that support from your whānau?
My mum, my dad and my grandparents, when we were kids, would take turns driving us to town or to our games. Some of our games were like 2 hours away from where we lived when we were kids, you know, and now I realise how fortunate I really am to have their tautoko, not just now, but from right back when I was a kid. Like, who wants to travel 2 hours to Whakatane to watch, like, 6-year-olds or Harry Potter around a ball, you know? But my parents, my grandparents, they would do that for us. This is probably, like, the best physically conditioned team that I've been a part of with the Black Ferns. I would say been blessed to have a bit more stability. We've had a lot more games to prepare for us to be able to obviously go over to England and have the goal of trying to win this World Cup again. There's like absolutely no reason that we can't.
What is, I guess, your ultimate dream personally, but also for Māori in sport when you reflect and say when you're a little girl you didn't even know what the Black Ferns was?
Yeah. Oh, that's a hard one. I probably wouldn't actually even know how to answer that. I know that as a female athlete, what I would love to see is for females in sport, but for me, females in rugby, to be able to do this without any barriers. And I feel like as women, there's always barriers put in place, and we're just so used to it that we just find a way and just move on, you know? It's just the norm. I would say no dream is too big. To the whānaus who are, you know, poipoing all our little pipi pāpau out there, kia kaha ki te tautoko i a tātou tamariki, kia kaha ki te hāpai a rātou, aha koa ngā wawata e hiahiana e rātou te whai,